Hey, it's News from Heaven. Today we're going to be looking at what pierced spirits to their deepest core. It really did. Swedenborg said that it did. This is actually the second part in our series. So last week we were looking at how the Bible made a spirit fly. This is the intersection that you never thought would happen of like spiritual, spirit world kind of stuff with the Bible. But I would say there's another piece to that intersection, which is you. That this stuff, which may sound way outside of your even peripheral vision for what you think is going on and important in your life, actually gives us direct revelation onto the inner workings of who we are and how we are and that sort of stuff. So we're going to hopefully unpack a little bit of that here today. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. You can download for free Secrets of Heaven 2. That's the text we'll be following along from. It's in the description. So let's get going and let's see if we can't, through all this, find a way to sort out the mind. Starting in 1770, you can see how much, we're having so much fun up here. There's X's, there's highlights. Go check that episode out. On two later occasions, so this is picking back up, where Swedenborg is experiencing what happens when the thing that we consider this strange text, the Bible and all of its idiosyncrasies and perhaps repulsive things, has this amazing spiritual impact. And here we're going to see a little more of just what that does. On two later occasions, I saw yet others raised into the second heaven to be with angelic spirits. And they talked to me from there while I read Deuteronomy 3 from start to finish. So here we have the joining of the natural and the spiritual. Because you got Swedenborg is reading this part of the Bible. It's Deuteronomy 3. I don't know exactly what that's describing. Maybe it's the one he was referencing from last time where the children of Israel are scouting the land of Canaan. So it's got these things. Some people go somewhere relatively simplistically described. So as he goes through this, it just could look like any other story. The spiritual counterpart to what's happening gives away that there's something much more dynamic and explosive happening here. And look at here how they perceive it. They said they focused only on the deeper sense of the word and stated positively that not one tip of a letter in it failed to contain a spiritual meaning that harmonized in the most beautiful way with all the other parts. So as you're looking down, the spirits here, instead of seeing what Swedenborg is reading, which is this, as we said, the literal story, and its potential issues or inconsistencies or whatever it is, they're saying, as we look at this, did you know that absolutely everything in here has not just a meaning, but a consistent, like this is telling another story. And every part, you might think, I could leave out that last little word, whatever that is. No, every tip of every letter, and I guess tips in Hebrew can add punctuation or whatever. I'm no language scholar, but every little bit of every meaning is tied together, and it's giving us some kind of amazing spiritual experience. Oh, and look at this. They added that the names symbolized something deeper. And this is a transition, because where you realize, when we start to talk about spiritual things as they are, we go from really person-focused to idea-focused. So instead of, let's say, this is a particular biblical character here, instead of like, what was this person about? Were they a good person or a bad person? Are they super important to God? Should we be emulating their life? That sort of thing. Really, this name is symbolizing something deeper, and something deeper as you get into Swedenborg's actual description of what the internal sense of this is. The thing that emerges is universal. That this is something that is talking about multiple levels at the same time. It's talking about something that applies to these spirits and to this Swedenborg and to you and to me. It's talking about foundational concepts of life. It would be akin from you're reading some story about how a particular ball or particular stone skipped across the surface of a lake, but you're learning from it the physics that applies to everything, everywhere. And even the names, and you know that there's these chapters in the Bible where it's just begat, 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 and it's just names and names and names, or they'll always talk about what they called the name of a place after they put an altar up there or something significant happened there. That actually, rather than being a earth, time and space, people hierarchy focused thing, actually it's not just that it symbolizes something deeper. The stuff would seem the most like it couldn't have any other meaning has the most of another meaning. This proved to them as well that each and every particular in the word had been inspired by the Lord. That they were able to see, oh no, this has got the divine stamp on it, which is not obvious to us. This is why there's plenty of people who really feel connected to the Bible and think this is something that's really doing something really good for them. And there's a lot of people that either are completely indifferent to it or think this is not even a text that holds any value. This is actually a toxic text that we need to get rid of. There's a lot of, on YouTube, there's a lot of people saying, look, this book has caused so much harm. We've got to get it out of here. Because we don't see that. I mean, maybe you feel like you do, but it's hard to see, well, where's God in this? And there's certain stories it definitely feels like, what? How could this possibly be? These spirits are saying, this is how you can see it. But it's not in the black lines. It's in the purple spirit. That's where it is. Which they had not believed earlier, right? There's a lot of legit skepticism about could there really be something like this in there. This is hilarious. They also wanted to swear to the truth of this in the presence of others, but were not allowed. Okay, like we gotta go, I guess, promise to people or testify to people that this is happening. But it doesn't say who doesn't allow them or what the conditions are. But for some reason, like, no, don't go tell the people this. And Swedenborg's like, I'm going to include that. I'm not mocking it. I'm sure there's a good reason, but it just is this little idiosyncrasy that I love about the way that he describes the spiritual world. And it sort of reminds me of Jesus Christ when he would do some kind of miracle and say, don't tell anybody about this. I wonder if there's an element here of people saying, oh, we want to go convince people that this is how it is, but really the way it has to happen is you have to come to that position for yourself. Because these people had to experience this, and that's when they went from skepticism to seeing this as a potentially amazing thing for the human race. Maybe that's the path we got to take on our own rather than being forced into it. But aren't I sort of telling people that? No. I'm giving you the tools to try to get to that experience yourself, I think. Who knows? Did I just discredit our whole endeavor here? Yeah, who knows, man? There's so much drama going on. Still, another group of spirits had difficulty believing that the Lord's word conceals these kind of depths within at its heart. And this is in the spiritual world. And this is people who already have been shown by experience that there is a life after death. Still, though, it's just the leap from the kind of text that the Bible is and the stories in it and all the baggage that comes with that. People are saying, really? There's no way. Why in a book? Why, how is this possible? That's everywhere. So if you're feeling like I'm not connected to this Bible thing, I don't see it as anything important, okay. You're not alone. There's a good reason why it's hard for us to get through to that. In the other life, spirits keep the skepticism they have when they lived in their bodies. It is not broken down except through means provided by the Lord and through, that's what we were just saying, personal experience. You take your mind with you. Some people think, okay, you've got the body, right? This is just a meat suit, and then the real us is here, and then in some religious traditions, it doesn't even really matter what happened with the body because you'll die and then that's gone, and then you get a new life and a new thinking. But this really is saying, look, the mind is already in us. And when we go, what we latch onto and make part of who we are here, that the only way we can be released from that is if we're willing and through means. So just the way here, why don't we just given everything we need to know and made to be good and do everything that would be most advantageous to our future and the future of the human race? There's means. It's always, you gotta learn, you gotta have an experience, you gotta go to a class, and it's because you gotta love what's good and true. I mean, it doesn't, if you have all the information in the world about how the world is packaged up and what the word is and all that packaged up and given to you, but in your heart you don't care about the point of the word, which is to love people and try to do them well, try to do well to them, try to do good to them, then it doesn't matter. The information is actually not going to help you. The heart game is the whole thing. This is why Providence is so careful and delicate with how this whole thing moves. Accordingly, the inner eye of their mind was open while I was reading some of David's Psalms. So Book of Psalms. He's in there reading away. And he's just reading that. But this is so strongly connected, as we saw in our last episode, that it opened the inner eye of the mind of spirits. And they needed that what's that called? When you start a chemical reaction? Catalyst. How long was I going to sit there till I remembered catalyst? This catalyst needed to come on Swedenborg's end, even though they're spirits, and you often think, oh, there's spirits up here, that's what's happening, all of us poor saps on the earth. But we can actually there's a power in the word that we have here that can reach up and actually help spirits. Yeah, so if you're just tuning in and you're wondering what this is, me too. They perceive the inner dimension. Oh, wait. I was reading some of David's Psalms. Although these spirits were not lifted up to join angelic spirits. So they're getting their mind open, but not like some previous ones, getting lifted all the way into heaven. They perceive the inner dimensions of the word in the Psalms I was reading, and stunned by them, confessed they had never believed in such things. You know what it's like? It's like near-death experiences. All this stuff in this episode and the last one, where there's just people are seeing what's actually inside the word. We can actually go into last episode, go back in time. When you're seeing within the text, the meaning that comes into be this amazing, beautiful thing up there, people are stunned by it. It makes me think of when people are in the light and near-death experience, when they see this incredible light and love that they didn't think was that's a class of object or experience that couldn't even exist, or they didn't even have a space in their mental horizon for it. They just that is how everyone's reacting to what's within the word. Many other spirits then listen to the same part of the word, so everyone's kind of gathering around, like, what's going on here? What's all this mind eye opening? But they all look at this. But they all perceived it in different ways. It filled the thoughts of some with many sweet, pleasant images, and so with a kind of life, according to the capacity of each. It also had the strength to pierce through to their deepest core. That was, surprise, it was the word that pierced spirits to their deepest core. And I think about that as like accessing your greatest emotions. You think about, you can sometimes feel like, nothing's really exciting anymore. I think stereotypically you'd say, like back in high school, or when I was young, I felt alive. But now people are looking sometimes to access the deepest core, and that the Bible is doing that to these spirits, the spiritual side of it. And not only that, but getting through to what's really in there that they may not have had access to. With some, its power was so great that they seemed themselves to be lifted up toward the more inward parts of heaven. The more they were affected by its truth and by the goodness interwoven with the truth, the closer they came to the Lord. Always, always, always it's about our receptivity. You've got the Lord. Lord is burning bright, okay? This sun is a trillion, billion, gazillion times more intense than any star you can find out there in the galaxy. This is the Lord. This is goodness and truth. And it's shining down. But inside each little one of us, depending on if we have it's all about our opening up of our receptors. Like this love and truth is streaming out, and the Lord is doing it here through, let's say, the Bible, through the Word. It's there, it's ready, but until we get our little receptors open, it can't come through. And this is what life is about. When we sit here and say, okay, try to be nice, try to be good, open up your heart, it's because that's how we can access this free energy that's beaming in all around us. That's what we're trying to do in life. That's regeneration, the whole process of spiritual growth that Swedenborg describes is this getting just able to just tweak our frequency to let this come in. And you see here, the word is let's do Adventures in Mispronunciation, Rorschach test. Rorschach test. You know what I'm talking about. It's a bunch of blotches on a page. I don't need to draw it. I'll spare you. There's a bunch of blotches on the page. I'll draw it. It's like blah, 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 here, blah, 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 blah. What do you see in that? Oh, I see my father. I see fighting horses. Oh, I see a tomato. Whatever it is says something about you as well, even maybe even more than what's about it. The word is working like that. That everybody, you'd think it was like, okay, I'm going to tell everyone the truth, and the truth is one thing. This is, it interacts with your particular mind, your particular love and wisdom in this different way, and it has these different effects. And that's good, because if you think about the potential of the whole heaven, you have God shining down. Part of what we do for each other is that because we each are our own individual little thing, there's a part of the spectrum, I'm sure I've said this before, there's a part of the spectrum of what's emanating that only you can pick up in this particular way, and that you can then reflect back out to everyone. So the more of us there are picking this up, the more that each one of us gets the full experience of God. That's why heaven gets better and better as more and more people get into it, instead of dealing with housing prices and, pollution issues. It's actually better and better the more people are there. It's because we're all different, and that was the plan. And there's a good potential in each of us to contribute to the whole in a way that nobody else can. That's the point of life. With some, its power was so great, I already said that. The more they were affected by truth, by the goodness interwoven. Okay, if I skipped over this, I shouldn't have. The more they were affected by its truth and by the goodness interwoven with the truth. That's the heavenly marriage. That's what the word is. The closer they came to the Lord. At the same time, the word was read to someone who grasped none of its inner meaning, but only its outer or literal meaning. In their eyes, the letter was lifeless. So if there's none of this goodness and truth, if it's not about any of that, if it's just about, look, I can pick out some part of this text and use it to justify some kind of selfish urge I have, then it's lifeless. Isn't that part of why so many people are not interested in the Bible, or have a aversion or an allergy or a downright quest against it? Is because there's a lot of what seems like lifeless stuff coming out of it. The people will name something terrible that's been done in the past. There's a decent chance people have used biblical stuff to justify that, right? We see this all the time, or stuff that just is irrelevant, or saying, look, this is the answer to stuff in your life, and you're like, that's not the question I was asking in the first place. There can be this lifeless interaction with it. Isn't it fascinating that if it really is that the word is this amazing vessel that holds the divine in it and can change these spirits so much, but yet it's just in this form that you can dismiss or take or read, or you can have it sitting on your bookshelf, or it can fall off the back of your car if you were setting it on the top for some reason and driving away. It's just a thing. Like it doesn't come down and have choir music around it, and when you touch it, it'll burn you up. It's just this humble little thing, but yet within there is the access code to all this greatness. And I think part of what Swedenborg says, the word was put in such a potentially nondescript way, manifestation, is because we need to be able to open to it in freedom. And if it just blows you away initially as we're here forming these little things here, that actually interferes with your development. Just like with kids, you go incrementally. Much more to talk about with that, but we won't now. At the same time, the word was read to some who grasped none of its inner meaning. I just said it. This showed what the word is like when the Lord brings it to life, and when he does not. Wow. I wish I'd read that as I just read one on my previous rant, because this is super key. When he does, it has the power to penetrate to our inmost core. So it was not just a word, it was not just a Bible that pierced those spirits. It was the Bible brought to life. That's what mattered. That there is a distinct difference between the truth and the truth when it's alive. And I think you can get that. You can feel that. To me, it's the same thing with Swedenborg, which is like could be seen as sort of a derivative. This is like an instruction manual for how to, interact with the word. I can read something and it doesn't mean that much. It doesn't really do anything. But there's other times when you get it and, this is talking about this exact thing. This was the saga I went through in my mind when I really started to feel like, Swedenborg is something that's worth telling YouTube about. Look, you've got this stuff and you can get some sort of idea, but you think that it just seems like it's words. But then suddenly you realize, oh no, this is talking directly about what's going on in my mind. And you see what it means. And this is the same thing. It doesn't have to just be with Swedenborg material. It can, with anything, you get what the concept actually is. It comes to life. Well, in the biggest iteration of that, you have the word. I stopped right here. Penetrate to our innermost core. When he does not, it is mere words with hardly any life in it. And I think this would apply too to religious groups, to churches. You can have life around how you're interacting with this text. It can bring you into love and charity and the pursuit of truth, or it can cement you into sort of a lifeless approach to life. That is a distinct difference that you can have interacting with the text. And if you're feeling like, oh, this thing is not alive, doesn't mean it won't always be. And the promise is the peak experience that we have is not, oh, I get to read a book. The peak experience is the life that comes out of it. The book is the means. And Swedenborg felt like one of his main tasks was to try to get people the basic tools to start to explore that meaning for themselves here. And that's the news from heaven. How'd you like it? Does that jive with you? Will you write some comments about it? Will you like and subscribe? Will you support the show? OTLEmonthly.cosvox.com. If you support us every month, it means we can go forward faithfully and know, okay, we can continue to do this. It means a lot. Thanks to everyone who has supported us so far. Please let me know if this episode was helpful to you. I'd love to hear your reaction. I'd love to hear how the Swedenborg stuff in general is helping you live a happier life day to day. Leave a comment about it. Thank you for giving me a little bit of time to talk through this stuff. I love getting to come across some story in Swedenborg that I think, oh, I want to tell news from heaven about this, because you guys have given this amazing opportunity for me to talk it through. Thank you for that, and hopefully it gave you something good to move out into the week with. Talk to you soon.